Hey, afternoon and welcome to Bush Kiddz. We're in the woods again today and we're going to talk about a challenge of finding tinder to start a fire. So let me show you what we need. So before we get on to tinder, it's worth coming back to the concept of a fire triangle. And that is a fire, to start a fire, to combust something, you need three things. Within this triangle, you need heat or a heat source. That can be from a lighter, from a spark, or by friction. You need oxygen in the air to fuel the fire, and of course fuel itself. That is things to start the fire, to keep the fire going, to sustain it. And it's the fuel part that we're going to look at today, because in fuel, what we'll have in a fire is tinder to start the fire. So tinder is dry material that will go straight to flame using the heat source, or create an ember that we can blow other tinder materials to flame. Kindling, so kindling wood to get the fire going, and then obviously fuel, larger logs to keep the fire sustained. So as far as tinder is concerned, there's lots of different tinders that we can utilise. Some are man-made here and some are natural. And once we've got the fire lit with those natural materials or man-made materials, then we can move on to our kindling. So smaller pieces of wood, small branches here, then kind of finger sized pieces of wood and then thumb sized pieces of wood to get the fire going before we start using our bigger logs and fuel. Now there is a way of combining both tinder, kindling and fuel to a greater degree, and that's by making something called a feather stick. And we'll go through this in a little bit more detail in another video, but it's taking a piece of wood, dry wood in this case, and then using a knife to basically shave little bits of the wood down to the bottom. And this piece here, these smaller shavings, act like tinder. If you do them small enough, delicate enough, you can put a spark into them or use a flame to start the fire. But catch fire through all of this and then start to utilise the rest of the wood. So let's come back to our tinders. We've got our man-made tinders here and we've got our natural tinders. So let's have a look at the man-made first. So let's have a look what we've got in our man-made tinders. So the first thing here that we all love for starting fire is cotton wool. Cotton wool is great. You can use a ferrocerium rod into this, just taking a spark, and it works really well to get a fire going. If you wanted to sustain the flame on here, then you can use, put a bit of petroleum jelly, Vaseline on it, and still drop a spark into it, and it'll go for 2 to 3 times as long in terms of the flame. So I've actually got some jute twine here, and jute twine is basically string, natural string, and you can pull the string apart, fluff it all up like this, and again that will take a spark from a ferrocerium rod or a lighter. I've also got some maya wood here, or fat wood, and fat wood is very resinous, and what you can do with this is scrape the fat wood off to get these little bits off it with your knife. And again, that's very, very good for dropping a spark from a ferrocerium rod into that. Other things I've got in here, I've got some char cloth. So char cloth, we've put a video on to show you how you use or make char cloth through a process called pyrolysis. Get some organic tea towels or cotton, or cotton's best probably, and put it in a tin, put it over the fire. It takes all the oxygen out of it and turns it into something that will take a spark really quickly and easily. In addition to that, I've obviously got a candle that I can light. I've got some lighter fuel. This is Dragon Fire here, which works really well. I've got some rubber from a lighter that lights really well, and I've actually got some waxed card here. And again, what you can do is just fluff this up and again drop a spark into this from a ferrocerium rod to get the fire going. So there's just some examples of some natural tinders. man-made tinders. And obviously the key thing here is to go and find some of these things and start to collect them for you. So let's have a look at the natural tinders then. So these are all tinders, tinder materials that I've got naturally from the woodland or around. And let me just step you through some of the things that you might be able to see and utilise. So the first one here, which is absolutely fantastic, is birch bark. And wherever I see something on the floor or on the birch, I can take this paper-based kind of bark off, keep it dry. It's fantastic tinder to get going with a spark from a ferrocerium rod. I've also got some bark off honeysuckle here, which is a climbing plant, climbs up trees, lovely smelling plant it is, and you just get the bark off again, and again really good if you can scruff that up in a dry way and put a spark into it using a ferrocerium rod. That again starts a fire really easily. I've got some dry bracken here, again good natural tinder when it's dry to take a spark from a ferrocerium rod. I've got some rose bay willow herb here. You probably see it. It has pink flowers on it, gets all this fluffy stuff at the top, and you can gather that, and again that takes a spark really well. Got some dry moss also, again good to start a fire. And I've got in here is reed mace. So you may see on ponds those big black things on the top of bulrushes. They pull apart and make this really fluffy tinder, and that's really good again to start the fire. So bulrush or reed mace. Same here with which is a cramp ball or King Alfred's cake, and this again is fungi. You'll find this on dead ash and some other trees, and you can see here this will take a spark and smoulder again, and you can use that again in some of the other materials to blow to flame. We've also got some amadou here, which is processed fungi, and again this takes a spark really easily. And I brought that ready-made. And then lastly, I've got one cone in here, pine cone in here, and a bit of pine resin actually that helps to sustain a fire and get a fire going. So lots to think about in terms of tinders there, natural tinders. Lots of things for you to look out for. Key thing here is to get it dry, so when you find them, put them in your pocket or put them in your jacket, get them dry, and then keep them dry so that when you need them and you need to drop a spark or get a light from them, they work really well. So there you go. The challenge is to get your own tinders, both man-made and natural. Keep them dry and have them ready for when you want to start a fire. So see how you got on, have a look around, do some research to see what other tinders you can find and use. Shows you photos of your own tinder boxes or your tinder pouches ready to make fire. All the best.